Cyber 24 is presented by our friends at Valcom. Valcom is a Utah-based IT solutions and services provider with a drive for getting IT right. From ironclad security to computing and beyond, Valcom's 35-plus years of experience means they have the experience and the expertise to help your business from the desktop to the data center. Please check them out at VLCM.com. That's VLCM.com. And welcome in to the Cyber 24 podcast, the weekly pod dedicated to helping businesses and governmental leaders better understand the often intimidating topic of cybersecurity so you can make better decisions for your organization. My name is Marty Carpenter of 24/9. I work in strategic communication, public affairs, and government relations. And this week we're looking at some of the top stories grabbing headlines in the world of cybersecurity. Our guest expert once again is Mike Hussey from the Utah Division of Technology Services. All right, Mike Hussey from the Utah Division of Technology Services is our guest expert again today. Mike, thanks for taking some time with us.
Hey, thank you, Marty. Thanks for always.
All right, let's jump into the top topics, hot topics, the big stories this week in cybersecurity. Cybercrime growing exponentially. That's no surprise to anybody who listens to or participates in this podcast in any way. These numbers are just getting more and more eye-opening. Private businesses, individuals, government can't seem to stop or slow the growing threat. So maybe that's something that's being taken a little more seriously as far as working together, because one tech giant is putting some pretty serious cash into the fight. Not sure if it's enough, but putting some big dollars up nonetheless. Microsoft President Brad Smith says government and businesses are starting to work together. At least that's what he tells the Wall Street Journal. So, Mike, let's start here at a basic level. You've been on the government side of these things. How important is it for industry and government to work together to combat cybercrime?
It absolutely necessary. Let's just start there with that blanket statement. It's absolutely necessary. You know, the state works with its federal partners. It works with the locals, but none of this is possible without those industry partners bringing their resources to bear. Sometimes, we look at election security and all of the things that go into that, and we have some great partners in the industry that come in with their skill set and really augments what we do on the state side to take care of things. And so we couldn't go at it alone. And so I have to say that there is so much value in working with partners that it just really gets that synergy going, especially as you see the threats growing exponentially, as you're talking about. We have to see those relationships grow at that same rate. Otherwise, you're going to get left behind, and you're going to have some problems. Microsoft
is committing $20 billion over the next 5 years to build up more advanced security tools. It also the company also says it plans to invest $150 million to help agencies in the U.S. government upgrade their security protections. Those are big dollar amounts. You know, if you're that'll pay for probably an NBA swingman, or it's a max contract in the National Hockey League. But I don't know if $150 million makes much of a dent in U.S. government security upgrades that need to be made. But still, I guess A for effort, and they should be applauded for putting something toward the effort.
Well, and I think that's a great point. It's a step, and it is a lot of money. An NBA swingman would be great, but when you put it in perspective, that it's not a lot when you're looking at the entirety of the cybersecurity issues facing the world. Yeah, it probably is a good first step, but not all the way there. Especially if you look at a number I always toss out about what we see at the state level is about 2 billion attempts. So if you monetize their efforts, you look at 50 billion is really just a drop in the ocean and to where it needs to get. And so but if Microsoft's leading out saying, hey, look, we're gonna dump this money into the industry and working as a partner with government, great. And then you'll probably see the next big company and the next big company jump in and follow suit. So I think that's really where you start to leverage some of those relationships.
Well, remind me, and it's 2 billion attempts on state data, 2 billion penetration attempts in a day. Is that the right number?
It's a day.
Okay, so 2 billion a day. So you'd have to do the math, but even if you were to say, let's say it was 2 billion a year, and there's $50 billion or $20 billion going toward it, how many dollars per attempt is being put in? So I don't mean to rain on their parade and say that, but you can look at a dollar amount like $20 billion and say that's a lot of money, and it is, but compared to the scope of the issue, it may not be much more than a nice little start.
Well, and that's we looked at it. Many states try and take their IT budget, and not that long ago, the magic number for us was about 6 to 7% of that IT budget to go to security. So having something like this will certainly help, where you start to build some effort with your partners. But I think that you're going to see that many of the IT budgets, that 6 to 7% isn't enough. And so that's why industry partners and others coming in, or states are just going to have to shift more resources to security to say, hey, look, we need to change our magic number to something else.
Makes me think in Utah, and this is for our Utah listeners and maybe for the policy wonks among us, but like we fund education with something called the weighted pupil unit, which is just known as the WPU. Maybe we need the weighted penetration unit, which is how much money are we putting towards stopping each penetration attempt, even though that number fluctuates somewhat. All right. Let's move on to topic number 2. In cybersecurity, there are black hats and white hats, and usually the latter are appreciated, especially when they find a vulnerability in an organization that didn't know about it before those white hat hackers came along to exploit it, and could do so before the bad actors got in. But don't necessarily tell that to Missouri Governor Mike Parson. The St. Louis Post-Dispatch, a major newspaper in Missouri, found a vulnerability in state systems that made the Social Security numbers for some 100,000 teachers and education staffers and other staffers available to anyone who is as good at hacking as the newspaper was. Not to say anything about people who were better than that. And that's all fine and dandy. But then, here's where things kind of go awry. The paper published the story, and the state knows about the incident, or knows about the vulnerability, and they're working to close it off. But the state's also taking legal action against the newspaper by saying you accessed information that you did not have permission to access. And so I guess, Mike, how's that for a thank you, first of all? And what kind of action, is this kind of action a net negative for the state to say, hey, thanks for pointing out our problem, but also, here's a lawsuit, or here's an investigation from our attorney general?
No, and that's a good point. I'm not sure how that played out, that discussion or that dialogue between the newspaper and the state. But certainly when I was state CIO, I welcomed if somebody found something, a white hat hacker, or somebody just stumbling across something. Please let us know. If we've overlooked something, our number one focus will be to address that issue. And so I'm not sure how that played out. If they said, hey, we're going to release this, we're going to write this story. Great. I would say write the story, but let me plug the hole first before we open Pandora's box. And then we can talk about, hey, we worked together on this. This was a solution. We actually had an issue in the state where those HOV passes to drive in the HOV lane, they're those little units that sit in your car. That's a contracted resource that the state relies on a vendor to help with that. And they were migrating from an old system to a new system. And so in the middle of that migration, there was a member of the community that discovered that they could go into the browser and tweak some things and actually walk through others that had been using that system. This was an issue with our vendor, and I would have loved to have plugged that hole. But the way I found out about it was through the news at night. And so I really would rather have that relationship. Hey, please, let's talk about it. Let's get the issue resolved before we're out writing the story. So, I wouldn't have, I don't know that I'd go after a lawsuit or anything like that, but there is that if you illegally touch state data, there could be some hefty fines and penalties for that, because there's a lot of rules around state data, including HOV passes or teachers' Social Security numbers. So, but it is not a good thank you. I have to say, I don't think I would have much rather said, hey, let's work together. Let's fix this. Let's make sure that, you can write the story. It is newsworthy, of course, but let's figure out how to fix things and go forward from there.
It seems like there's an easy middle ground here, which is to say we found out about the vulnerability. We went and tested it. We found that it is a vulnerability. We're going to tell the state, not so that we can help them cover up the story. We're going to write the story, but we're going to tell you this,
Absolutely.
outline with us what we can agree on as a reasonable timetable to fix it, and then we're going to go report that this got done. To me, that satisfies and checks the box for good journalism, but it also recognizes that a news outlet is part of a community, and that what you're trying to do is, point out that something was wrong. You're not trying to help the government cover it up, but you also still get to get your story out there. So an interesting one all around. The attorney for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch said that the reporter informed the state agency about the vulnerability to prevent data misuse. They said, quote, "A hacker is someone who subverts computer security with malicious or criminal intent. Here, there was no breach of any firewall or security, and certainly no malicious intent." That's what he told the National Public Radio, NPR. All right, Mike, it just seems like everyone could communicate a little bit better and get to a better outcome. The demand has never been greater for business owners and IT professionals to invest in intelligent security camera systems. At the intersection of physical security and cybersecurity, an increasing number of organizations struggle to take a proactive approach to surveillance. Verkada's all-in-one physical security platform makes this decision easy with features like plug-and-play installation, centralized management, secure remote access to cameras, and smart features and alerts. Smarter security starts with Verkada. Learn more at vlcmtech.com/Verkada. That's vlcmtech.com/VERKADA. If you're looking for protection from uncontrolled access, Salto can deliver the perfect solution, tailored to your exact requirements to provide you with all the security, convenience, and control you need. With Salto, you install access control in a wire-free environment, so there's no need to hardwire the building. Because Salto works on a virtual network, you can enroll or replace a lost key within seconds, making reprogramming and rekeying a problem of the past. See how Salto can make your access control and building security simpler and safer at vlcmtech.com/Salto. That's vlcmtech.com/SALTO. Mike, our final topic this week, suspected ransomware payments for the first half of 21. You want to take a guess, ballpark, about how much money's been lost in the U.S. in ransom payments in the first half of 2021?
Probably more than my Wendy's budget.
Well, I would hope so, because if not, if you're spending $590 million at Wendy's, I want to party with you, because that's a lot of spicy nuggets. But that $590 million total, Mike, that's more than the total for all of 2020. So if you want to, make a graph and show where this is trending, that's a hockey stick type graphic. If you're already in 6 months at where you were in 12 months last year, those numbers according to the Treasury Department, by the way. So along with the report, Treasury issued new guidance for companies to protect themselves from ransomware and avoiding paying ransoms. And all that really important. But, $500 million here, $500 million there, Mike, it starts to add up to real money. And you can see why this problem is growing, because there's nothing that's really been able to slow it down to this point.
Yeah, and that's, again, when Microsoft is stepping up and saying, hey, we're going to invest $50 billion in to help mitigate this kind of stuff. Yeah, you start to see the reasons why. If you're at 590 million thus far this year, and that was all of last year, then yeah, I can only imagine what 2022 is going to look like without doing something different than we're doing today. And we spoke about this before, but the playbook's going to continually change for the bad actors. They're going to find new opportunities. They're going to, Windows 11 is coming out right now. Who knows what is discovered in there? People are still going to come up to speed. Is it going to be an attack vector that folks will get a foothold into your inside? I don't know yet, but certainly the trajectory is unfortunate, and I think it's something that certainly needs to be addressed. Podcasts such as this, raising awareness and allowing people to make a change in their business decisions when they start to see, hey, what's the trajectory look like, and am I going to fall victim to it? I was actually talking to a company recently that they had a ransomware attack last year, and they were just sweeping up from another one this year. So they yet had an issue. They thought they addressed everything, but they only plugged the hole that they came into last time, and then the different bad actors found another foothold this time. And so I think it's just, as long as you continue to raise awareness and make it the very first thought you have when you walk into work, as an IT professional, you say, hey, look, I need to make sure my systems are secure, that you're not going to fall victim year after year after year. So I think it's an unfortunate trajectory.
It's the challenge that comes with always playing defense and only playing defense, right? That whether it's any of these companies that contributed to that total of $590 million, they don't have a way to play offense. Their best offense is a good defense, and they can put security in place, and they can train people, and they can do all those things. But it's like they have to be right all the time, and the hacker only has to be right or lucky once, right? Just the one time. And you can think through that in any type of sports analogy, right? Like the defense has to stop everyone all the time, and if they don't, and any goalie that gives up one goal, soccer, hockey, whatever you're talking about, you got to stop all of them. And when you don't, it's a big deal, and everybody notices. Treasury says it's doing its part by making it difficult for hackers to profit from their crimes. I think that they are probably more accurate in saying that they are trying to do their part by making it difficult for hackers to profit from their crimes. But $590 million would tell me that hackers are doing just fine profiting from their crimes currently.
They're doing a good job, yes. And actually, maybe that's the offense that maybe the Treasury is trying to do, is say, hey, look, we're coming after you. There's some threats. There's that kind of thing there, just to go after the community. I don't know if our international relationships are going to change, or we're going to have different kinds of responsibilities within the country as well as out of the country. And so that's going to really dictate how things look down the road. And so anyway, I think it's, having a good defense is your best strategy here, but maybe the feds may help on the offensive side to go after them when it does occur. Yeah.
As we wrap up for this episode, I want to thank our sponsors at Valcom. At Valcom, you get much more than a dedicated IT retailer. They become an extension of your IT team. So whether you're a startup or an enterprise, Valcom has the technical sales and engineering expertise to make your business more effective and more productive. Check them out, VLCM.com. That's VLCM.com. Special thanks this week as well to our supporting partners, the Utah Division of Technology Services, the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute at the University of Utah, the Utah Attorney General's Office, the Utah Department of Public Safety, and our friends at Secuvant. As a reminder, you can follow us and should follow us on Twitter at cyber24_. You can also follow us on Facebook or on LinkedIn. Hit us up in any of those places to let us know what you think, or if you have a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode. You can also, of course, rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts. We love those 5-star ratings. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week, and stay safe online.